So as we approach the beginning of summer, we are seeing some familiar supply trends as well as some subtle differences from last year's real estate market. And if you are considering buying or selling in our Ventura County real estate market, well, you may be interested to see exactly what's happening as we take a look at the three different price ranges and what to expect. I'm Harold Powell, a local real estate agent serving Ventura and the surrounding communities. And if you like my videos and want to stay up to date on all things real estate for the Ventura marketplace as well as real estate, I suggest hitting the like, subscribe, and bell icon to be notified of future content. So one of the most recent headlines is mortgage applications, which are up 11% from the previous week, and several lenders are reporting significant surge in application activity. So some of that may be seasonal and some of that may be due to the slight decline in mortgage rates. In either case, we will be looking at just how that will translate into an increase in our summer demand. So let's talk a little bit more about supply and demand, and really to help with that, let's take a look at the supply and demand graph. So our inventory levels actually have been on a steady increase, and April 2025 finished out with 1,334 properties on the market, which is 77% higher than April's last year. So we are still experiencing a steady increase in inventory, and as we head into May, we are quickly approaching 1,400 homes on the market. Now, I will say that a normal market will experience a steady increase of inventory up until about July or August before leveling off. And then we start seeing a decrease in inventory come September, October. So much of what we're seeing is typical. So one of the trends that we typically see this time of year is actually diverging from the norm, as usually you see inventory increase during the spring and summer. Demand will often rise with it. So when we take a look at the graph of both pending and the solds for April 2025 compared to April 2024, we see the solds are 9% lower and pendings are actually 14% lower than last year's April. So we will be keeping an eye on this closely and taking a look at this trend in the future, and we'll see if that 11% surge in applications will translate into an increase in demand. All right, so let's take a look at the months of inventory based on pending sales for three different price points. We'll look at the 1 million or less range, the 1 to 2 million price range, and the 2 million or more price point. So starting with the 1 million or less price range. Now, we see that we're at 2.3 months of inventory for April 2025, and we are still sitting in a seller's market. At the same time, when we compare this to last year's April 2024, we see some significant changes with the inventory levels as low as 0.9 months of inventory. Additionally, the trend line we see from February 2025 to April 2025 goes from 1.6 months to 2.3 months of inventory, which indicates that the pace of how fast homes are selling in this range are actually slowing. And at the same time, this price range is selling faster than the other two price points. So the good news is if you are a buyer in this price range, you will have a much easier time finding and securing a home with more options and less likely that you'll have to compete with multiple offers. While sellers in this price range will likely have offers within a 30 to 60 day time frame if the property is priced correctly, pricing will be a bit firmer here, but as more homes come on the market, sellers will actually need to be a bit more reasonable and flexible when responding to repair requests and even price adjustments. Otherwise, buyers can easily be lured to find another property. Moving on to the 1 to 2 million price point. Now, what is similar with this range and the 1 million or less range is that the overall trend line from April 2024 to April 2025. In both cases, we see that more than a doubling of the months of inventory based on pending sales. Now, What is different is that this range we actually go from 1.7 months in April 2024, which considered a seller's market, to 3.5 months of inventory, which actually is a shift to a balanced market. Additionally, the trend line from February 2025 to April 2025 indicates also the sales pace is slowing in this price range as well. So for buyers looking to purchase in this price point, you will be competing with fewer buyers than if you're looking at the 1 million or less range. And buyers will also have a number of options to choose from. And for sellers, with the recent shift to a balanced or normal market, we are seeing more sellers having to make price adjustments based on competition. Additionally, in a normal market, we will often see homes on the market for 60 days or more, which obviously seems foreign for so long. While sellers may need to factor in more marketing time to sell and possibly get their home on the market sooner to give them the additional time needed to sell in this type of market. So moving on to the 2 million or more price point. Now, what is different in this range versus the other two ranges is that the month supply in April of last year was actually higher at 5.1 months of inventory versus a 3.8 month supply. Now, both numbers do reflect a balanced market. So this range is also the most likely to be bounce around between a balanced market, even as high, up to a buyer's market. So sellers will need to be a bit more patient since market time will be longer in this range. And additionally, sellers may need to consider price adjustments if there really isn't that much interest. Now, I will say that for all three price points, the price and condition of the home is going to factor in more. Sellers will need to be more strategic and flexible when it comes to pricing and repairs. And in this type of market, price adjustments will happen more frequently as more properties hit the market. And we are seeing more homes actually in the same neighborhood that will often be competing for that same buyer. Now, as far as condition and prepping the home for sale, I would recommend my video on the magic of paint when it comes to not only boosting the value, but also the appeal of your home to buyers. And my second recommendation to sellers is watch my video on what not to fix when selling a home. This will save sellers considerable time, money, and effort when it comes to deciding what to do and what not to do when you're getting your property ready for sale. All right, well, I hope you found today's video helpful. If so, give it a thumbs up. Thanks.